Hello, hello. So this is Rebecca Jackson of Empathic Crow. Oh, excuse me. And Eric Jackson is back there somewhere, my husband, and also the founder of Whispers in the Dark Paranormal Research Team. We may have to turn that down because it's going to echo in my ears. All right, so we're just kind of saging and cleansing myself and the cards. Doing some Reiki symbols. All right, and we're just going to kind of let that burn a little bit. All right, so I'm going to do just a little bit of grounding, and I will send Reiki through the screen. So that means that if you are watching this later or even right now, the energies should come through to you. So I'm calling in any divine being for myself and those who are watching or who watch this later. Setting intentions for peace, grounding, and energy protection. Asking that any messages that come through are for the highest good. All right. So I'm Rebecca Jackson. I started out as a Reiki master, as a Reiki practitioner and a Reiki master and teacher. I do in-person, distance, and I also have gotten an animal Reiki certification that I have been able to use to help animals who have things like separation anxiety, just kind of difficulty with calming down, restlessness, injuries. And again, you can do that in person or distance. It doesn't matter. I also am, once I started Reiki, I started really embracing the fact that I am highly intuitive. I pick up on emotions of people who are living and people who have passed. As I focused on it more, realized that I can connect through sight, sound, smells, sometimes even taste, which isn't always the greatest thing, body sensations, auditory. So whether that's songs or if it's words, phrases, different things like that, that's how I connect. When I started, I had to close my eyes to be able to receive messages, partly to block everything out and be able to clearly hear. Now it can be just anytime. So I do that grounding, like what I just showed at the beginning of this live recording. And also I will, especially when I'm going into work, set boundaries. So the boundaries are that when I'm working, that is, like, especially at my full-time job, that is not the time for spirit to come through. Sometimes they do try, and I have to try to find a way to get the message across to someone without going into mediumship while I'm at work. It's just not the best setting at this point. If anyone comes on, you have any questions or you want a card pull, definitely let me know. So right now, while we're kind of just waiting, I'm going to go ahead and pull some cards. We'll do a general reading. That kind of lets you see, one, the decks, and two, how it goes. So I do have a YouTube channel that I need to post more videos on. I do want to do quarterly zodiac sign videos at some point. I just have to get my schedule worked out to be able to do that. All right, so we're going to start out with the Crow Tarot by MJ Cullinane. I forget where the camera is sometimes. So that's the Crow Tarot deck. I love crows. That's where Empathic Crow came from. And so that is the name. All right, so we're starting out with the Five of Swords. There we go. Rebecca will get this at some point. So the light's a little reflective, but that's the Five of Swords. So with the Five of Swords, if you saw the card, like this looks like the end of a battle, right? And so things have felt like a battle, but with swords, a lot of times we're thinking of like thoughts. And so it's like a battle in your mind. And the second card that we got is the High Priestess. There we go. The High Priestess. So with the Five of Swords and the High Priestess, before I saw the High Priestess, I said, this is like a battle inside your mind. So it's not like a battle with someone else. It's a battle yourself. Like there's something that, has been just kind of like, look at the clouds at the top of this card, if you can see them. There we go. The clouds at the top of the card are what's drawing my attention, and the crows flying through them. It's like feeling as if things have been just gloomy, that it's been a struggle. This can feel like just depression, loneliness. Like even when you look at this crow, he's standing on his own. The other two crows beside of him have passed, and the other crows above him are flying away. So out of the five crows, he's just kind of by himself. And so with that battle in the mind, I'm seeing in the High Priestess the moon. And the moon for me is kind of anxieties and things that don't serve us, which are those thoughts, those negative thoughts. So let's see kind of where that goes from here. So sometimes I'll pull all the cards and then read, but when I'm doing a live especially, I try to read as I go, which means that the meanings will develop more over time throughout the reading. So we start with the tarot cards, and the oracle cards kind of clarify and add some additional information. Right now we've got the Magician, and the first thing that I saw in the Magician are the red flowers. For me, red is that root chakra grounding. So part of getting out of your head and getting out of the clouds is being able to ground yourself, bring yourself back down, and to understand, like the Magician, like I know it's hard to see the cards, but here we go. With the Magician, he's got all the tools. You have all the tools. So he's got the wands, he's got the pentacles, the cups, and the swords. He has everything that he needs. So with that, your intuition can be a great gift. All of us have intuition. We may call it our gut instinct, a feeling, a hunch, a coincidence. Coincidence doesn't usually exist. It's usually your intuition, but that's okay. And so everyone has intuition. We're just not all as in tune with it, and we don't always listen to it. When you add in anxiety, depression, trauma, then we get into this space of having these intuitive hits, feeling like something's off, sensing some red flags, feeling like something's happening. But our anxiety, our trauma, our depression, our past experiences mean we may interpret that situation in a way that's not fully accurate. Example would be, let's say that you have a friend who maybe their resting face looks like they're mad. So whenever you're around them, you feel like they're mad at you, and you ask them, are you okay? And they're like, yeah, I'm okay. And you're like, okay. And then they're still making the face. So then again, you ask if they're okay. And then they start getting irritated after you ask too many times. So intuitively, you were picking up on those nonverbals and things. Maybe the friend was bored, whatever, but it wasn't necessarily about you. Or maybe they had something happen before the two of you met up, and that came through. So sometimes we misinterpret it. So as the Magician, part of this too, I feel like is really, because look at this bright beam of light above the crow's head as a magician. It's really focusing and honing in on that crown chakra and that intuition, that third eye, and focusing on what the message actually is, connecting with your divine spirits, because even, and I'll pick up that card in a minute, but I noticed so many different things. Even with the clouds in the background of this, if you look, I don't think it's clouds. I think actually it is what I'm seeing. It looks like guides or angels. You see above the crow up here, the shapes and things look like angels and guides. So really tapping in and not just staying up in your own head and second guessing everything, listening to the messages that you're provided. Because right now I'm seeing the mountain, which is like, you're making it harder than it has to be. You're 11:11, right as I said that. You are making it to where you are having to do way too much work and worry, and things feel like a struggle. Like this, that first card, the 5 of Swords, that is a struggle. Like I said, this is a battle that you have in your mind. The next card that we have is the King of Cups. So stepping into that magician energy and really taking your power back. That's the magician. You're taking your power back, understanding that you have everything you need. You don't need all this outside stuff. You don't need the validation. The validation has to come from you. Your worth has to come from you. And the King of Cups, he is comfortable with his emotions. He is comfortable with himself. And so even though, if you look at the background, there are waves, like all the swirling water behind him, he is totally nonplussed. Like he's just calm as can be. He is not in the chaos that is behind him. Like there's even a fish flying out of the ocean behind him, if you can see that up here in this corner. Again, we have the moon. But this time the moon, instead of being kind of something that, like with the high priestess, in this crow tarot, she's sitting on it. It's not something that you're holding on to. Those worries and anxieties, they're kind of behind you now, just like those waves and the chaos and everything that's going on. And so when we look at that, just knowing that the King of Cups, he knows his cup is full. He is confident. He's not worried about things. And so this is the energy that you want to be stepping into, is that King of Cups and letting go of that 5 of Swords. So we'll see if there's any more tarot cards that want to come out before moving on to some oracle cards. But I think the message is getting pretty clear. And then if anyone comes on and you have a question or you want a card, just let me know and we will definitely do that. All right. So the World. All right, so with the World, you see there's a wreath on here. So the wreath and the 6 of Wands is a victory. So it depends on how you look at it. You can look at this as a victory. You can look at it as something that is a positive for you. We've got the infinity symbol at the top and the bottom. So when we look at the World, like even though this is the World, I'm seeing the Wheel of Fortune as well. So understanding that sometimes you're up, sometimes you're down, but either way, you can always win. It's about your choices, it's about your thoughts. Like we have the crown up here above the crow's head. It's about being able to connect with yourself. Like I said, that higher self, being able to really step into the divine and make sure that your thoughts match what you want. Sometimes we have these negative thoughts and we say, oh, I'm never going to get this. This is never going to happen. Well, even in psychology, we talk about self-fulfilling prophecy. There we go. Brain didn't want to say the word. I asked for my thoughts to be cleared out and for the messages to come through, and we're clearing my brain out. Self-fulfilling prophecy. So basically what that means is if you believe something enough, whether it is a conscious choice or something that you do subconsciously, you are going to create that situation. So really focus on your thoughts up here and focus on the thoughts that you want to create, the thoughts you want to manifest. And with the World, we have, of course, the different signs in the corners. We've got the Scorpion for Scorpio, the Lion for Leo. We've got the Bull for Taurus. Excuse me. And with all of that, just knowing that you are supported. And the reason I'm kind of caught off guard is it looks almost like there's a skull up here in this corner. And with skulls, you may see I've got some skulls over here. I don't see skulls as being like a morbid thing or implying death or whatever. For me, skulls are knowledge. So like I said, that kind of caught me off guard, but because I don't think that it's supposed to be a skull, but that's what it looks like. So again, you understanding, you having the knowledge that you are able to create the world, to create the worldview that you want to create. All right, so we'll run through the deck one more time, 3 shuffles, and see if there's anything from the tarot before we move on to the oracle cards. And babe, if you think of any questions or anything, feel free to kind of ask those that I may not think of. We got the page of swords. So you're starting to get out of your head. You're not there yet. You got to kind of get out of your head a little bit and stop overthinking things. Like in my mind, what I see is kind of like a hamster on, I about said a treadmill. You know, is it a treadmill?
Yes.
A hamster on the treadmill where it's going around and around. Like that's what's going on in my head, is like, and it feels like those are your thoughts. And last card from the tarot deck is the 3 of Swords. 3 of Swords is kind of that card that represents that you have some things that are unhealed and now is the time to heal it. So with that 3 of Swords, you may even, the reason you're in this place where it felt like a battle and you're in your head and things felt very negative is whatever the situation, it felt like you were hurt. But with these 3 swords, I feel like it's more than once, like it's getting hurt. And so then it's the overthinking, and we have to get out of that overthinking or we're going to attract the exact same things that we've gotten before into our lives. All right. So babe, Urban Crow, Halloween Oracle, Shadows and Light, or Haunted Echoes?
Halloween.
Okay. So this is the Halloween deck by Stacey DeMarco. And I'll show you the front of this one. It's really cool, really pretty. Okay. So we're going to see if we can get some cards that'll just clarify this reading a little more, add on to what are the things that you need to do in order to be able to get out of your head, to be able to heal this situation for yourself. Keeping in mind that healing from situations like this, I know people hate when any of us as counselors or whatever say, you have to focus on forgiveness. And I feel like maybe there should be a different term for that, but forgiveness, it's forgiving yourself for allowing the situation. Like if you noticed or you saw the red flags, but you did things anyway, allowing yourself to forgive yourself for not noticing that, for staying too long, for whatever it was that you feel like you should have done differently. Forgive yourself for that. You can't change it. And then forgiving the other person doesn't mean you even have to tell them you're forgiving them. It means that you are going to release the hurt, the anger, the worry, the frustration, any emotions that you have tied to that person in that situation. That's the forgiveness. It doesn't even have to do anything with them. Like you can wish them, don't wish them ill will. Let them have their karma. Do not create more of your own. Whatever you believe that, either karma or things happen, you bring forth things on yourself, whatever it is. For every action, there's an equal action, whatever it is you believe. But just know the best thing is to not send them ill will, but just to release those emotions. Allow yourself to be free. All right, let's see what we get from the Halloween Oracle. I have to show you this because this is adorable. Look at the front of these cards. You've got pumpkins, bats, witch hats, brooms. So cute. And ghosts. I didn't see those. And cats. Lots of things. Oh, excuse me. I get the hiccups. Even on investigations, I have to say, that was Rebecca hiccuping. If I hiccup on the video. All right, so these cards are a little slick and a little bit harder for me to shuffle through. So I'm going to try a couple more shuffles. I don't get anything, I'm just going to pick a card in a different way. I like shuffling because then it feels like it just kind of pops out, but it can still work another way. So what we're going to do, we're just going to spread it out, and I'm going to pick from the cards that are spread. All right. All right. So we've got this card right here. Skull of Flowers. This is perfect. So Skull of Flowers is creating through the ashes. That's exactly what I was just talking about. This feels like everything. This feels like everything came crashing down. You're having to rebuild. So like with the Skull of Flowers, what I'm seeing is the Phoenix. So it felt like your whole world was, yeah, you're creating your new world, the world that you want to experience. Sorry for the random movement of the cards. So it felt like your whole world came crashing down. It was not what you expected. With the flowers, even what comes to my mind when I think of flowers, especially with the colors, the pink, the yellow, and everything, are new beginnings, springtime, new beginnings. And so with this, it felt like you were left just completely depleted, like nothing left, but it's being able to rebuild yourself, creating through the ashes, recreating yourself, being able to step back into that person that you are. You didn't lose anything. You just kind of went into hiding for a while. It's a way that we protect ourselves. That's where dissociation with trauma comes from. It's not even that it has to be to the point of dissociative identity disorder. It's just protecting yourself by pulling back. So it's time now to stop pulling back, stop holding yourself back. Let yourself come through. Let yourself believe. Notice that this flower is on the third eye chakra. So again, tapping into that intuition in a way that you start to trust your intuition and trust yourself. And even the colors on these cards are very similar. So trusting yourself and knowing that you are very intuitive. You are able to decide these things. But when we're feeling really down, when we're feeling like we doubt ourselves, we're going to question ourselves every time. So don't question yourself. All right, let's choose another one. All right, which one? It's that one. Okay. The lamp, remembrance. Remember, I talked about forgiveness. So with that remembrance, yes, you're still going to have memories. And it wasn't that everything was bad. And so sometimes we're still going to hurt or have nostalgia about the situation. And it's okay to have that. It's okay to honor the fact that some things were good, but also to understand that you don't want to go back to that. So even like with this pumpkin looking out the window, what I see is kind of like, it's like a shadow. Like it's there, but there's a veil in front of it. I say veil, but the high priestess, she's got the veil on. Like it's there, but it's not immediate. So even with trauma, you can't take away the memory. You can't take away what happened, but it's about desensitizing ourselves from the intensity of the emotions, from being able to view that experience and to know that it was hurtful and it was difficult, but not allow it to affect us as much. All right, let's see if we've got one more coming from this one. Right there. All right. So the last card I pulled, forgiveness. I know people don't like that word. Trust me, I'm a counselor. People do not like when I say, well, we need to think about forgiveness. But as it says, reducing burden. And that's exactly what I told you earlier, is reducing the burden of the hurt. You cannot change what happened. You cannot change the people involved. You cannot change your decisions that you made or anything that led up to what happened or what happened. But what you can do is be able to let go and release. Remember, I talked about the moon here. and how it's letting go of anxieties, things that no longer serve you. You've got to release those things, because if you do not, you won't move forward. Eventually you might, because if we hold on to it for too long, it's going to get to the point where it's so overwhelming that you either let it completely consume you, or you find something else to focus on, which needs to be yourself and your healing, and figure out what you need to do to feel better. So I'm going to pull, I'm really being called to the Oracle of Shadows and Light. So I'm going to pull some cards from there. And if you end up watching the replay and you want to have a card pulled for free, even though it'll be after the live, for one card, I will do that for free. And I can just type you the message and send it to you. So just send us a message through either Whispers in the Dark Research Followers or through Empathic Crow.
Yes, sorry.
You're good. All right, so we're going to use this Oracle of Shadows and Light. And then for the 3-card pool, same thing. So that offer will be good through, let's see, today's the 30th. So we'll say through midnight tomorrow. So right before November 1st. So that would be midnight, I guess, of November 1st, because 12 o'clock would be then. My brain's kind of focused on the reading, so I may not be making sense out of other things. Oh, that kind of jumped out. So let's see what this one is. So you've got 18, Violet Duchess, stifled, bored, and stuck. So if you look at her, she is definitely bored. She is stuck. And I feel like this is, I know this is hard to see. There we go. I feel like this is again saying, if you stay in those emotions, you stay in that situation, you're just repeating the same thing over and over in your mind. The situation doesn't change. The only way the situation can change is if you take your power back, the magician, take your power back and change the situation yourself. We talked about with the world, that self-fulfilling prophecy. There may be things that can be predestined, but we also still have free will. So you still have choices. It's just like with a reading. The reason that past and present are usually really accurate and on point is because it's either already happened or it is happening. But future is just a possibility, because if you make any other decision than what you might have been thinking about at the time, or if something in the equation changes, then the outcome can be different. So let's see. Oh, I don't think those were meant to fall out, so we're going to keep shuffling. Yes, definitely go to the Trunk or Treat event tomorrow if you are in King, North Carolina. That will be at the American Legion Post 290.
Yes, and my wife does not know it yet, but her lovely husband will be in an inflatable bull costume with a cowboy hat that he is going to be purchasing online at some point.
How much is that?
So I had a 20% off code, so it's like $45.
Okay.
But I can use it to promote the rodeo at the King American Legion, and I can prance around the top of the street while people are pulling into the rodeo on my giant bull. So it has multiple uses. Love you.
I love you too. So we have Ghost of the Past that came out. The number for that card is 42. The past returns for a time. So with this, I feel like even there may be things that come up, or you may even see the person or be in the similar situation, whatever it is, and the past feels like it's returning. But I'm still getting the feeling you're not supposed to go back to the situation. What's that in the back? So there's, ooh, like hidden mask and people in the background. Yeah. So let's see if you can see it. So if you see in the top, what would that be to you? Right corner, there is a mask, and in the left over, I can't reach it, but over here, no, that's right, over there. Above her mask in her hand, there we go. There is this figure that's kind of just there in the background. So there are things that are going to come up. Anytime we have trauma, there are things that are going to trigger memories. but it's not allowing ourselves to be pulled back and sucked back into that past, into that situation. Think about trauma is it lives in our body. So that what that means is that it's the sensations and emotions that we felt at the time of the trauma. So even let's say that it's a new friendship, relationship, work situation, whatever it is for you that felt like it was just a constant battle and brought you down and everything. With that, there may be times where something feels similar, and it's being able to use your intuition, like really step into that high priestess to decide, is this the same situation? Are these red flags, or am I just feeling like it might be? Remember, I talked about the anxiety coloring our intuition. Am I feeling like it might be because it sounds or feels very similar to before? And so this is definitely the last card that's coming out of the shadow, the Oracle of Shadows and Light, Witch at the End of the World. So this is the second time we're getting a world reference because we got the world from the Oracle. This card number is 45. And so it says an important end, a new beginning. And that's exactly what I said when we were talking about this skull of flowers, is that it's focusing on that new beginning. So this is an important end. You have to let this go. All the cards are saying you have to let this go, because if you hold on to it, you are holding yourself back from things that may even be good for you, things that you may even like, things that you may even benefit from. But you're holding yourself, you know that phrase, you're holding yourself back from your blessings. It's been constantly going in my mind. So I'm going to go ahead and say it out loud, and then maybe it stops running through my mind. Like you're blocking your blessings if you do not focus on yourself and your healing. And that can be through, like I said, divine guidance. That can be from going to a counselor. That can be from focusing on your health, your self-care, whatever that looks like for you. All right. So we've got Haunted Echoes, Oracle, and the Urban Crow.
Haunted Oracles.
Okay. So we got the Haunted Echoes, and this deck does not have a creator name on it. It is a pretty good deck. Some of the things are misspelled. I got this off of Amazon because I loved the images and the messages on the cards. It is really good. I think that it is probably a deck that's a little bit more nondescript, not necessarily as fully developed as some of the other ones, but even like the thickness of these cards is really good. The weight of the cards is really good. And that is Eric playing with the dead bell. So let me try that again. We will shuffle one more time, and I'll show you what the cards themselves look like. So we've got the rider on the horse. All right. Let's see what message comes through here. Oh, let's put that back because that just kind of flipped in my hand. If a card is meant to come out, I can promise you, because it's happened before, it will come out again. I have had a card come out before, not just once, but multiple times, and I will, or in multiple readings, and I put them back in the deck because I'm not sure if it was because I dropped it or it really was coming out of the deck, and the same card will come right back out. So if they're meant to come out, they will. So we had 2 cards come out. Yep. So let's see which one of these is first. It's this one, the one that came out on top. So Dusty Tombs. So again, I don't know why it's spelled that way. That's not the way that we would spell tombs. We would spell it Tombs, but that's okay. Dusty Tombs. Within lost knowledge, find the keys to new wisdom. Learn from the past. That's what I was saying. You know, take what happened as a lesson, and like I said, don't allow the past to color new situations, whether that's relationships, work, whatever it is that was going on. It could even be family. Don't let it color the way that you interact with other people because of what happened. But at the same time, be ready, be aware. If you start feeling like things are off, maybe they are. So learning from the past, But this is not about hiding, because then it's seeing the light. What is within also lies beyond in the outer world. So we've got the world again. Seek inner truths. So remember, we talked about the high priestess. We talked about the world and being able to really focus on what it is that you want. And that's what we're talking about here, is being able to tap into your intuition, being able to turn more to yourself and what you need. Like I said, the way that we have to heal, others can help us, but you can have people bringing you all this wisdom, information, even setting you up for success. Maybe they help you to get a job. They help you to get into a school program. They help you to meet someone, whatever it is. People can try to help you, but if you aren't doing what you need to do in addition to what they're doing, it's not going to work. Or if you're not feeling connected to it, then it's not going to work. Like, even when I'm talking to people, I tell them, if I suggest a coping skill or something or my style is not working for you, let me know, because maybe I can try something different, or maybe you need somebody else. So being able to trust yourself and know what it is that you need, and understanding with the seeing the light, that there is light. Look at the card. They're walking through this dark, dark alley, but there's light at the end of the alley. There is light. You just have to be open to possibilities. You have to be open to things that scare you. The only way through fear is to push ourselves through the discomfort. So with that, I mean, obviously, if it's something dangerous to yourself or to other people, or it's illegal, I'm not telling you to do that. But it's kind of like, if you're afraid to date someone, you're afraid to date. I'm done with dating. I don't want to date anyone because every time it just seems to not work out. So you shut yourself off. You just closed off that opportunity. And maybe you would meet someone that's good for you, but you're closing yourself off. You're not going to have that happen. And so on the way to what could be a really good opportunity, who knows, at the point that you decided you weren't going to do it, that may have been the point that you were almost ready. And like I said, the big thing is, for any of those things to happen, you got to focus on yourself. When you're focusing on yourself and you're building yourself up and you're working on your own healing, you start to attract people and things to you, situations, whatever, that are really good for you without even trying that much. Still got to put in effort, but you don't have to try so hard. All right, last deck that I have out here is the Urban Crow Oracle, also by MJ Cullinane. She's got several decks out, but these are the two that I have. So we're just going to solidify this message, because all the cards have basically led to the same message, the same thing. Like, and this typically happens, like I said, you have the message and then the oracle cards just kind of validate it. All right. So I like to do 3 shuffles. 3 is a number that just really I'm associated with quite a bit. And so we're going to do the 3 shuffles. If it feels like I need to do more, I always will. But 3 usually is good enough. I don't know. We're going to see on that one, because they did jump out, but they jumped back in. All right. Sometimes they get a little sticky, and sometimes they'll come out, sometimes they won't. All right, so we're going to try a few more shuffles. See if things pull through. Ooh. I feel like it's kind of like this, you've already got the message, why do you keep going kind of thing. That's kind of what I'm sensing in my mind. All right, 14, distance. Yeah. So if you look at this card, you've got this crow right here, and there's a couple of crows with him. So he does have a couple of crows that are around him. But as far as like the rest of the world, you see all the houses and things in the background. It's in the distance. And even with the distance, like the sun is back here. So the sun is coming through. You just got to be patient. And that's really hard to do. But putting all these things, all this stuff behind you and being able to focus on yourself and having supports, whether that's supports that are ancestors, angels, spirit guides, or counselors, mentors, any of those things, bringing those in. I just saw kind of like yoga and meditation. So again, yourself too, being able to ground yourself, being able to really focus on what it is that you want and need. All right. And we'll see if there's anything else. And as you can see with my readings, I typically do general readings that are about 30 minutes or more. And so even when, yep, that makes sense. So even when I'm doing a personal reading, a 15-minute reading I can do, but it's got to be just like the few card reading, because otherwise we're going to be going over time, big time, and I have to try to respect you and respect me. All right. So we have release. Like I said, this is a big message. Release, being able to just let go of those situations, let go of those things. And this crow down here is in the ground, like literally in the ground. And that was one of the things that I just said was like the meditation, yoga, grounding, automatic writing. I keep seeing writing. So even that can be helpful. So it's just automatic writing, also in psychology called streams of consciousness. So just where you start writing, you don't even know necessarily what you're going to write about, and just keep writing. And then you tap into your subconscious, you tap into your higher self, if you want to call it that. And you'll notice that the messages that you're writing down are things that maybe you've thought of, but you weren't even aware of it, or things that you feel like you need to hear. For those who feel like they're connected to higher self or divine spirits, beings, things like that. That's what you're doing. But releasing all these things, that's what those crows represent, that no longer serve you. Again, as you see in the background, there are clouds, darkness, but in the ground we have this really warm orange and red, which orange and red for me are root chakra and sacral chakra. So coming back into your passion, your creativity, and grounding yourself so that you can bring those goals to mind. So I feel like that connects to the sun, like this new beginning, really getting back to yourself. Interesting. So actually, these cards back to back have exactly the same image at the bottom. So we've got the 22 grief and the 39 release. But look, in both of them, you've got the crow who is in the ground. So we had the release at first, and now we've got the grief card. So this release is going to partly be a grief. Like I said, it's not that you just get over the situation. It's not that you just don't remember it. It's not that it doesn't hurt. It's that you try to reduce the intensity of that pain. So you see, even within that, we've got the crow who's in the ground, but now instead of these other crows flying away, these other resources, people, whatever it is that supports you, divine beings, feeling like they're so far away, as you release with that grief, you're bringing in the support. So we've got the two other crows here who are also mourning and supporting. And then we've got the other crows up here on the lines who are not necessarily your direct supports, but they're supports that you have the ability to connect to. It's just they're not necessarily as close to you. And then there's also crows back here. So with a call, a message, a word, something like that, you can call on more guidance, more resources to help you. With grief, the thing about it is I tell people it's not just like a straight line, that it's not linear, that you go from the 5 steps to acceptance, and acceptance means that you're done. It's same with trauma. The grief is still going to be there, but I see it as a spiral. So in the beginning, you've got a lot of really tight trigger points. And so the grief is really intense and it happens very frequently. And then over time, we still may feel the grief, but it's more spread out. And just keep in mind that with grief, it doesn't have to be grief of someone's passing. It also can be of situations. If this was a heartache, whether it was a job, a relationship, a friendship, any of those things, a family situation, any change can cause a grief or cause us to grieve. And so we have to be able to grieve, but it's also about releasing and letting go of those situations. And then the last one kind of pulls in what I was saying about the grief card. The last one is teamwork. So you see, I talked about like the supports and having people around you, and then we have teamwork as our last card of this reading. And so with the teamwork, we've got a lot of red in here. So again, still that message of grounding and feeling supported. So like with the root chakra, it's feeling grounded, feeling safe, secure. So even like when we think of our needs, basic needs are food, shelter, water, clothing, things that support us, that safety and security. So really setting yourself up to feel safe, to feel secure, bringing in these people, or like I said, ancestors, guides, angels, counselors, mentors, things that make you feel secure, things that make you feel comfortable. If there are people around you that are not making you feel comfortable, these are not the people who are part of your team. They can be part of your life. They're not part of your team. And your team doesn't have to just include certain types of people or situations. As you see, we have other types of birds here. And seeing the hawk makes me feel like you really are bringing in order to get through this grief and everything, you're really bringing in a strength. And hawks have really clear vision. So I feel like I'm seeing the high priestess, and that you are really honing in on focus and that clear vision, not letting the judgment of others cloud your vision, but also listening to others so that you're not, like if your intuition is on point, but your interpretation of it is not, that you have others who are helping to guide you through that. But again, you know, the clouds here are in the background, whereas before we had them like right over top of us. The clouds are in the background, and then you also have the sun up here. So like I said, there's new beginnings, there's new things coming, but it's being able to regain a trust of yourself and be able to really discern who are people that you can trust so you can build that team. And I think that's pretty much it for the cards. Those are all the decks that I brought down. And as I said, it just feels like it was a constant validation of do this, do this, do this. So the themes we have are trusting yourself, calling in divine guidance, as well as guidance from your higher self, calling in guidance from people around you who you trust and who support you, being able to focus on the things you want versus the things that you don't want, or the things that have hurt you in the past, releasing those emotions that are holding you back, that anger, hate, anxiety, frustration, that focus on the things in the past, and knowing that there is a new beginning. But in order to get to that new beginning, you have to release that pain, that hurt, that grief. So that is definitely the message. And we are right at minute 49. So babe, anything you want to add? Any questions, anything like that? I know I'm starting to run out of my voice.
No, you did very well. I was pleased as punch to present you tonight and do this live with you. I know I wasn't really here, but I was monitoring the chat and the live and the comments and everything, which the comments are mostly me, but they will come later. You know, all things start out small and then you gradually grow an audience. So I know eventually we'll get there. We just got to keep trucking along. Want to let everybody know that the next big event for Whispers in the Dark paranormal research, or investigations and research, is going to be December 21st at the Trivet Clinic. I will try to go live. I don't know what the signal is going to be out there yet. I don't have any information really about it. I just know that we're going to be there from 6:30 p.m. till about 3:30 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
We may stay that long. We may not. It just depends on what we're being called and what spirits are coming through who want to connect with us. But
yeah. And for those of us that are highly intuitive on the team, and Eric has really been tapping into his intuition as well. What we typically do is we try to write down excuse me, losing my voice. We try to write down the things that we're seeing, hearing, experiencing, sensing, whatever it is. And even from the first investigation, as Kathy said in our last live on Wednesday of last week, even that first investigation, Kayla Marie, Jackie Ruth, Kathy, and myself, even though sometimes we were getting little different pieces and parts of the story, all of us had some of the same things in each of our papers. And it was great to be able to have not talked about it before and to validate that through that paper, because sometimes when you're doing metaphysical work, you may be able to kind of say, hey, I think we need to move over here. Or like the photos that Eric took of Kathy and I at that investigation, where the old man's face appeared on my face and Kathy's face at 2 different times. We can kind of direct where you may get more evidence, but with the metaphysical stuff, it's not as easy to prove as sometimes that physical evidence. And that's why some people don't value it as much. But I can promise you that it is very valuable.
So, like I said in the last podcast, and we had John Williams with us, who I said really did an excellent job of stepping up at OSR. He does not know this yet, but I will announce it to him. I am promoting him to assistant team manager. So he will be me when I can't be there, but I should be there every time. But he can also help with the investigation if we depart into 2 separate teams.
Right.
My words are all getting jumbled up. I have ice cream upstairs and I think it's calling me.
Well,
but with the
sorry.
So not to cut you off.
Mm-hmm.
So normally what happens before we go into an investigation is Jackie, Kaylin, Rebecca, and Kathy and John pretty much all go in blind. They don't know a bit of history or nothing. I do most of the research and background information, and I don't share anything with them unless they want to know after the fact. But what we do is, like she said, they write down. So what I'll challenge everybody to do is go on the Facebook page, get a photo of the Trivet Clinic, focus on it, tap into it, and then write down your thoughts. And then once we get everybody's thoughts back and we have our team meeting and we discuss, then I will say, well, it's interesting that you brought that up because here's this and this and this. Mm-hmm. And I will validate. And
but the big thing, is before going in, like even if you decide to do this on a location, if you haven't done it before, always ground yourself, call in protection, whatever that is for you. If it's God, angels, archangels, guides, ancestors, whatever it is, or do a grounding meditation. You can even Google on YouTube grounding meditations and ground yourself and be the observer when you're tapping in. And I say this because if you tap it, and I've done it before because I wanted to stupidly, even though I taught people to ground and protect, test my abilities and see how far I could go. You can go down a rabbit hole that could be really difficult for you to come back out of, especially if you're newer to going into yourself and tapping into that intuition and tapping into that information, connecting with different spirits and energies and things like that. You have to be very, very careful.
So with that, she kind of stole the wind out of my sails, but I'm actually going to have a podcast specifically on grounding. I'm going to share stories of my own experiences grounding and what I failed to do, and what Rebecca and some of the team had to help me come back out. And we will go over those grounding techniques. We'll go over calling in your big 3.
Yeah.
Or
whatever it is for you.
Whatever it is for you. And hopefully Rebecca will be joining me on that one because she's a little bit better at the grounding. But we will just show you everything that you need to know from arriving to the destination, before you go to the destination, pre-investigation, during investigation, and then the final wrap-up. Because the worst thing you ever want to do is carry something that you didn't take in back with you home.
Yeah,
and that's whether that's artifacts from an investigation or unattached spirits. And
right.
No, I'm not calling anybody out. This is just in general.
Right. This is something that we've, even when we've been on investigations with other teams before, this is something that Eric and I talk about amongst ourselves, that we're really big on, like the Ouija boards. You know, I use the cards, I have used pendulums, things like that, but I call in, and you may have heard at the beginning of the video, I can't remember if I had said it or if I did that before, but asking that any information is for the highest good. Like with a Ouija board, you just don't know what you're bringing in, and you have a lot of things that are going to lie to you, and you don't want to mess with that. So on that grounding and protection, I'll definitely try to be there, because even sharing more details of what happened to me, I think would be helpful, because it was intense, and it took about 2 days to recover, I think. And it was difficult. And then I'll also, I can talk about like different gemstones for grounding and protection and intuition, things like that. Like this is indigo gabbro, and you can see it has kind of a purpley color and a black color. So this is good for grounding, but also intuition. So this is a great one to use if you're wanting to tap in, because you can ground yourself while also tapping into that intuition. So we'll talk about stones, grounding, experiences, all of those things.
Yep, absolutely. No, you hit on everything correctly. And I'll also share an experience that I had while we were at the our Verbo rental in Ohio before we went to OSR.
The 1863 home.
Yes. And my experience there, because that's a podcast of its own. We could go on for an hour about that one.
That was, oh my gosh, that Friday night that we went in before the investigation on Sunday, that was just crazy. The stuff that Kathy and I and Kayla and Marie were getting, and then when Jackie came, like she was even a piece of the puzzle with the house. And so with that, hopefully she can join us, because really, however much of that connection that she wants to share, that is her story to share, but we would love for her to be able to. I mean, it was just, I don't even know what time we went to bed, because that was just a crazy intense night. Like it was amazing.
I think around midnight I went on a store run because we were thirsty and hungry, and Kaylin needed chocolate, so we had to go out and get a few things. And thank goodness there was a little 24/7 gas station around the corner from the house, so we didn't have to go far.
And just know that chocolate, I know in Harry Potter we may laugh, because after he does the Patronum and, you know, he's drained of his energy and all that, Professor Lupin, I think it is, gives him chocolate. And chocolate actually is a good energy booster, a good mood booster. So if you've done some energy work, or if you've tapped in and you're feeling drained, or you've been on investigation, you're feeling drained, a little bit of chocolate. I don't like milk chocolate, and I'm plant-based, so the dark chocolate will be just fine. A little bit of chocolate will give you some of that energy boost.
Yep. And at some point, I have made a ton of collaborations with other paranormal teams via Facebook. I hope to have some of them on as guests in the future, and then possibly I, myself, or the rest of the team will be guests on their podcast as well. So stick around for those. You know, the podcasts are only going to get better.
We definitely need to have Mitchie, who we talked about on the last podcast that we met when we were at OSR. She's part of the blood prison there. She is just an amazing person and has her own paranormal team. It's Owl. I can't remember.
It shares our colors of black and green.
But we'll make sure, because I don't know if it was if we tagged it into the last one, but we will make sure that we tag it into this one. But we would love, we're going to ask, of course, but we would love to maybe have her on a podcast, and she can even talk about the blood prison and experiences that she's had there, because she shared some of those experiences with us, and it is awesome. Like I said, she also has her own paranormal investigation team. So I'm sure she's got tons of experiences to share with that. And like I said, as a team, we just immediately were drawn to her energy and we love her.
So thank you guys for joining us. With that, we're going to close this out. Again, like Rebecca said, if you wish to have a reading after this, after you went back and watched the live, just send us a message, and we will do that for you. Yep. Other than that, we hope everybody has a blessed night, and we will see you here again next week.
All right. Take care. Happy Halloween.